look at this fun fit. This is very soft dramatic friendly, like these voluminous sleeves with all this extra material, and then this black around the waist to really define the curves, and then a high-waisted black pant with a flare leg, and then a pointy boot. This is like just perfect proportions for a soft dramatic. But what I wanted to talk about today was we have a women's group where I work. I'm in a STEM field, and it's very male dominated, so we get together about every other month and we talk about whatever issues. Like the first one was about menstrual cycles and learning about how there's not just you're either bleeding or not. There's luteal and follicular and ovulation, and the different types of energy and mindsets you have that are dictated by your hormones at each time of the month and how to ride that wave. That's my favorite topic. But then we talked about communication styles and reducing filler words and softening our language, or how to advocate for yourself, or we've done mental load, burnout, things like that. Yesterday, we talked about choosing a word of the year. And a couple of years ago, I did this and I posted about it. And I used to be, I'm like a recovering type A goal setter. And it just isn't satisfying anymore to set all these very specific goals. And then it gets me in this mindset that things need to happen this certain way. And if they don't, I failed. And I found it was narrowing my mind to different possibilities and ways that things will unfold. And often it's not even that thing that we want, it's the feeling that that thing will bring us. And that can come in many different ways. And that can even be said of money. And I know people have a hard time conceptually wrapping their head around this or believing it, but it's not the money you want. It's the feeling from what you'll get or experience once you have that money. Maybe it's semantics, but I think that's an important distinction. So a word of the year is even a way to simplify it and say, what's kind of the tone behind everything? What's the area of growth that I'm focusing on? And I had a series of events that led me to choose my word that I shared with the group, because I joked my initials are TMI. I don't mind being vulnerable in most areas and kind of showing that it's okay to be vulnerable, especially in a group of people. So I watched a video this week that I made a couple years after my father passed away, and I rewatched it because this was the 23-year anniversary of his passing, and I was struck by this one particular clip in the video. It was a bunch of like home movies, and we're on these go-karts in Disney, and he says to me, "What do you think, Laura?" He turns to me, pans the camera, and I say something like, "I don't know." And sure, I was a kid, I was overwhelmed, I didn't know how to process so quickly. But what really struck me is, I think, as when you grow up in a large family, especially as a middle child, you really learn to not prioritize your own needs and what you want and what's best for you, because you really need to go with the flow, go with the group. And so you learn the skill of harmony and how can we all as a unit function better. So it's really taken me some deconstruction over the years to really tune into what I want. Because the first thing I think when someone says, "What do you want?" is, what would work for this group? And that's a great quality, and nobody calls you out for that because it benefits everybody. But until it doesn't, until you really start to notice the ways where it's not beneficial for you, and then ultimately not for other people either. So seeing that was a reminder of how far I've already come on this, but how I still have some work to do. And then part two was I watched this video, and forgive me, I forget the name of her channel, so I'll post it here. It was called How to Starve the Patriarchy. And I really loved this because I am more interested in videos or discussions that are about your internal world than I am about the systems and what everybody else is doing. And those are interesting too. And I'm not saying other people shouldn't be interested in those, but that's not where I draw my particular, it doesn't inspire me. I feel disempowered often when I focus on those things. So for me, I am interested in how can I be different to disrupt this system from the inside out and be less vulnerable and less exploitable because of my internal world. So this video was about the ways that we've internalized misogyny that keep perpetuating this culture that is patriarchy. And it was about the ways that women kind of carry the burden of mental or emotional load in everyday interactions, where we really strive to not make people feel uncomfortable or to have silences or to be helpful. And we're so conditioned to do this that we don't even realize it. And then this perpetuates, people will take if they can, often, not maliciously, just because it's available. So we make it very available to be exploited or not treated as well as we could be. And generally, I'm an optimist and I really do see good in people, and I don't go around assuming people are trying to screw you over. But I think this awareness of how we can make it really easy and externalizing our actions and our thoughts by, like, again, what does this person want? What would make them feel comfortable? What are they asking of me, without first tuning into ourselves. And if you don't struggle with this, you might be like, obviously, but this is something I've really had to decondition. So seeing that video really reminded me of how ingrained this is. And then the third part of this was I made a series last year, and I posted one of the videos from the series in my last post. And this was really processing something I had gone through. It was kind of like a 10-year cycle almost. And I was really wanting to shake off the patterns and limiting beliefs that got me to that point. So I wanted to be accountable to myself. So I made videos about kind of what was coming up. And it really did help by the end. And especially now, almost a year later, watching those videos, I thought, I am not that person anymore. And I really feel for her and what she was going through and the beliefs that she had. But the thing that kept coming up for me is, oh my gosh, I was giving people so much grace and just questioning myself and what I was feeling. And what I would go back and tell myself is, you need to trust yourself, trust your intuition, don't question as much. You might be wrong sometimes, like wrong is subjective, wrong for who, but you need to protect yourself more. And that's when I came to my word of the year, which is trust. Trusting myself, trusting my first reactions. And I think, not all advice is for everyone. So sometimes trusting your first reaction is not the best advice. If you are traumatized, as most of us are, small t trauma, your first reaction might be reactionary. Like, I am getting mad at this person because of something my father did, and now I'm projecting that onto this person. So that's not always the best advice, but I've done a lot of self-reflection on this, and I can see I need to calibrate more towards trusting that first instinct, especially now that I've healed some of these more reactionary patterns. So trust is my word of the year. I'm open to that changing after the actual new year, which I talked about in another video, is February 17th, where I think the energy is really going to shift, and I might feel like I've really worked through this to the extent that now I want to focus on something else. But as of right now, that's the word of the year. So I'd love to hear if you have a word of the year. Maybe you want to have one now that you've heard this, and please share it below. I think it's good to be accountable, to share, and to build a community around this. So thanks for listening.